So in this flat here, these are chamomile seedlings. They will probably go out to be transplanted maybe next week. They're about 2 weeks old. And in the evenings and in the mornings, I come out and I'll do that every morning and evening before I transplant them. And when they go into the bed, won't do it quite as much as that, maybe once a week or so. But the terpene spray will make them very, very prolific in their production of essential oils. So this is lavender. It's been harvested, and now I've sprayed it, and it's going into its second forming of flowers. Very rich side shoots to produce flowers. That's the action of the hormones in the terpene spray. We'll take a walk down along the herbs here, and you can see that all of the herbs that have been treated that way have a beautiful structure, very complex and very rich flowering. That's from the hormone cytokinin. It makes the herb plant very productive of its oils. Now we just run down the lemon balm. You can see it's a happy camper. If I run my hand through here in the harvesting, I get lemon balm oil on my hands. People have come in the garden who know herbs, and they go and do that. They go, I've never seen lemon balm oil on my hands. This is English thyme. You can see the same gesture here, very prolific, beautiful flowering process. Now we'll go that way. And if we just then look at the basil, we see the same kind of development. The side shoots are very prolific. That means that per plant you're getting much more of the vegetative action of the plant, and in the herb plant, that vegetative action is the thing that produces the oil. So the spray has allowed these plants to actually find a very powerful archetypal form. You can see that is very prolific of the essential oils. That valerian has sort of oil, but sort of not. You spray it and with the terpenes, and suddenly it is very redolent and filled with aroma. So the real goal for me has been to try to make herbs based on their own natural tendencies of flowering and whatever, but to make it available to them to really produce oils. These are Helichrysum italicum, and they've just been thinned. It's in August now. I thin them out so that they don't get mildew in the winter. After I thin them, I want them to kind of come back and start to establish themselves going into the fall. So I go in the morning after I thin them, and I spray them with this terpene spray. And what will happen is, as they begin to fill out again, all of these little buds on the ends of the ones that are left will start to sprout and go and make a very good vegetative form for going into the winter. They're hollowed out at the bottom to keep the lower branches off the ground to prevent mildew. We want a really good development at the top. So I call that pruning and spraying. Very often with almost everything that's in here, I prune it and then spray it a little bit so that it fills out. The cytokinin will do that. That's the beauty of it. It makes, once you cut something and then spray it, the plant itself is trying to overcome what you've cut off. It wants to accelerate its horizontal growth. That's what the spray is. So when I prune it and then spray it, I'm actually working along with the natural order of things of what the plant wants to do. When I prune it, I'm taking the end off, and what's left down at the bottom is want to grow horizontally under the influence of cytokinin. That's what we've captured in the spray. So that's the idea. So I'm not violating anything. I'm following exactly what the plant would want to do, but I have a little addition here in the spray that helps the plant do what it wants to do. Okay, so here's a wonderful plant. It's lemon balm, Melissa, and the helichrysum and the lemon balm are very, very healing. They're very complex oils in them. But they're so complex that there's very little of the finished oil. It has many, many fractions that are very different. Very powerful plant, but hardly any oil in it at all. So if I take all of this and put it through the still, I get a tiny, maybe a couple mils of oil if it's wild. But here in the garden, I can prune it and then spray. And that's what I've been doing with these lemon balms in the evening. I just come and I say, bless you, lemon balm. And what will happen at this time of the year is that they will go into a second kind of flowering process. But because it's been hot, the leaves are protecting themselves with making a lot of essential oil. So by pruning them back and spraying them, I get a very beautiful flush of very oil-rich lemon balm. When I harvest this and put that in the still, this lemon balm will yield a lot more oil than you would imagine. I know a lot of people who work with herbs, and they ask me how much oil I get out of my lemon balm. I'll get 15 mils a year out of just a couple of plants. They say that's impossible. Well, it's not impossible. You just have to supply what the plant needs, and then it becomes possible. So these are about ready to be harvested. I'll run them through the still. I'll use an oil extractor to do it. And I'll put this in a little salve or in a little oil and give it to people, and they go, oh my goodness, what is that? That is so beautiful. I make a wonderful oil out of the helichrysum and Melissa, call it Heli Melly, and you put it on your skin and you go, wow, this is really powerful. I call it owie oil. You get a bump, you get a bruise, you get a bite, you get a sting, you get a cut, you put owie oil on it, and next day it's better. So the terpene spray is very good for helping plants that hardly have any oil in them to actually be very productive of a very high quality essential oil. I go through every 5 days and just with something like that, a little mist, and it's you would say, well, what is that supposed to be? It's not really anything. But because of the action of the hormones, it is a very potent force on the ability of the plant to maintain growth into flowering and fruiting. So those two, flowering and fruiting, are two different levels of development from growth. You can punch growth up with nitrogen, but you can't develop fruiting and flowering with nitrogen. You just can't do it. It has to be something else. So industry does it with hormones, but they're all synthetic. It's not synthetic.